Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to do a quick review of the new Paul Rubens Student Grade paint set. There are 36 5ml colors, well packaged, as all the Paul Rubens products have all come in really nice packaging. Definitely very giftable, and here you can kind of see the assortment of colors that you get. The paints all have pigment information in them. You might need a magnifying glass to read them, but it does have your, like this is PR 264 for instance, and that's in English, and then there's a bunch of Chinese writing in there, but you can definitely get your pigment numbers and your color names here. And it's got a nice assortment of colors. I went ahead and put the colors in a palette and let them dry down. Now I did my swatching, here's the palette I used. I did my swatching with them wet, and I'm not a big fan of working from paint when it's wet. I like to dry it down and see how it does, especially with student grade paints, because something I'm very curious about is, are they going to crack and fall out? Do they have enough binder in them? Do they have enough humectant in them? Are they going to be chalky? Are they going to be opaque? I found them to be pretty transparent actually. I drew these lines before I swatched them, and I can see like the sepia color is kind of muddy and opaque looking. Yellow ochre's a little bit opaque, but not bad. One of the reds is a little on the opaque side. The yellow may be a smidgen of the opaque side. There is some white that's not terribly opaque, but more of a mixing white than a highlighting white. This green, this kind of like olivey green, is a little more opaque than I would like it, but I was able to dilute it and get a fairly transparent wash on one of the examples I'm going to show you. And the colors did not crack and fall out, which I was really pleased with because I was afraid they were just going to crack and fall out, but they all dried out really well. Some have more of a matte sheen to them. They re-wet really well, which is good. So on those accounts, they dry out and they re-wet well. So that's a very good quality. This is just the first experiment I did with them to test their flow and their glazing ability, texture of the paints. They did pretty well. I thought that they will work really well if you do like the one stroke or loose watercolor floral painting, that sort of thing. I think they would work really well for that. If you like to use paints as accents in art journals, maybe to paint a bunch of Christmas cards, stuff that's not too serious. I would say, I'm trying to see if there's light fast ratings on these. I believe there are. I do see some little stars on there, but I'd have to get a magnifying glass. I would go by the pigments more than the light fast rating, just because a lot of the pigments are pretty customary. You can find them on Handprint or other pigment websites and see what those pigments are rated. There's some of your tried and true ones, and I would think they'd be moderately light fast. I mean, they are student grade paints and they do have some fillers, so that just definitely disperses the pigments out a little bit and alters the light fastness of them, but there wasn't any, I didn't do a deep dive in all the pigments and whatnot, but I would say they're moderately light fast. Then I did this one. I did this one on a tutorial, just a really quick little watercolor card. The paint isn't as sheer as, say, like a Sennelier. I wouldn't say it's going to be great for layering. If you're just doing like one or two glazes, I think you'd be fine. It will definitely, you'll see that kind of granulation that's not like you can kind of see it right here in this red actually. It's almost like a little chalkiness. Not terrible, but it's definitely apparent that there are fillers in this paint. And then this one, I like how this turned out, but I was frustrated in creating it, and I did use not watercolor pencils. I used regular pencils, colored pencils on top to kind of fill in a little bit, because I was having a really hard time getting a smooth wash for these paints. Because I think it's because of the fillers and the binders, and they want to kind of lift up if you do too much glazing. So I would say if you're just doing some kind of like loose florals, if you're doing they kind of behave a lot like the Prima watercolor confections. Just if you're doing loose florals, if you're doing like splashy wet and wet washes, as long as you're not doing too much intricate glazing, because you could lift up the paint underneath, I would say, they're decent. That said though, the artist quality Paul Rubens paints are so affordable. I think I would pass on these and just go right for one of the artist sets. They have artist tube sets and artist pan sets. These I think are about $33 last I checked on Amazon, and you can get the set of 24 artist half pans for like 35, 36, definitely under 40. They have a set of 48 pans that's like around 70 or 70 something, or the tube sets are around 50 something with the palettes. I would honestly do that. I would save up a little bit longer and get the artist quality. I don't think I would really mess with these, or I would spend less and I would get the Pretty Excellent set of 36. If you want 36 colors, I feel like the Pretty Excellent set of 36 is a better quality than these. Of course, there's no pigment information on those, I don't think. But as far as using them, I was just using them the other day. They were a dream to paint with, and they're 20 bucks for 36 versus these, which are 30 something. So that would be my recommendation. Because the Pretty Excellent ones, they're from the same manufacturer. I just find they're more transparent kind of paint. Unless you love seeing that texture in your paint when you're doing like loose florals, then you might really enjoy this set. But if it was me, I would recommend, if you want a student grade, get the $20 Pretty Excellent set, or spend a little bit more money and go with the Pro Paul Rubens paints, which are really a steal of a deal for the price that they are. These, I feel like they didn't really need to have a student line of the Paul Rubens tubes, because the professional line is so affordable and so reliable that to cut quality, just to cut a little bit of cost, wasn't really worthwhile. I do like this brand a lot, and I just want to disclose these were sent to me for free for review. But I just feel like they missed the mark a little bit. I don't think that they're like a waste of money or anything, but I think for your money, you're better off to save up a little bit more and go with a Pro range, or spend less and go with a Pretty Excellent range. And the Pretty Excellent range actually has a palette with it, so that's another expense. You're going to need a palette to purchase a palette if you get these, or use a plate or something. But I like to dry my paint down so I don't waste it. You know, it's definitely fine. It just didn't knock my socks off, and I guess I probably had a little bit higher expectations because I liked their Pro line, and the Pro line was such a great value that I was expecting these to really be stunners, and they're just okay. You know, they're your typical student grade paint. They kind of very similar to like the tubes by Arteza or Reeves. You know, kind of not the big maker paints, their student range, but kind of just the companies that come out with only student range paints. That's really what it reminds me of. And these are more expensive than those brands, so they definitely would not be my top pick for a student paint. They're not a waste of money, but I think you could definitely get more for your money. I really like the company. I feel kind of bad not giving a great review, but I wanted to be completely honest with you because a lot of you guys were interested in this. They always do such a great job with the packaging too. If you bought them already, you haven't, you know, use them. They're fine. If you haven't bought them yet, you could definitely spend your money a little bit more wisely, I think. So there you have it. I gave this 4 different tries in different occasions, and although I did like it a little bit more fully dried out, I still felt like there was some noticeable fillers in them, and they just left me wanting more. They just, you know, they just felt like, it's like, I like the professional ones. They're such a great value, and their Pretty Excellent ones are such a great quality for low money that these just didn't meet my expectations for what I know this brand is capable of, basically, is what I'm saying there. So there you have it. I wanted to get this out because I know a lot of you guys were thinking about getting these as Christmas gifts, so I wanted to have it out there for you before you ordered. I hope you found this helpful. Let me know in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up if you like reviews. And until next time, happy crafting!